let's talk about how to use local storage. The keyword local storage is an inbuilt browser API that you can use in JavaScript to save the persistent data in the user's client. So when I say user client, it means on the user's device, whether be it phone, computer, whichever device the user is using to access your application. So whichever device a user is using to access your application, you can always use local storage to save data in that user's device. So this stores a key value pair. Just like you have your objects like this, key and the value, local storage saves it in this format. So when you want to save something in the local storage, you use this keyword local storage. And to save, you have to call set item. Is a method under this local storage object. So set item takes two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the key that you want to save the value as. Let's say name. The second parameter is the value, say Lovett. All right. So this is how to save something in the local storage. Your local storage, the key is a string and the value is also a string. So it can only save string, but you can save an object, which I'm going to show you how right now. So this is how you set an item in the local storage. Once you run this code, it will save this thing on my device. Okay. So if you want to access the value later, you can do something like this. You want to print it to the console. You do local storage dot get item. So your get item takes one parameter, which is the key of what you use to save the data. Okay. When you run this code right now, you get Lovett on the console because this line sets the data to the local storage and this line retrieves the information. So if we comment this line of code now, because we've run this code before, if we call this now, it will still have the value, Lovett. So we don't need to set this all the time because once it's called once, it has saved the value there. You don't need to call it repeatedly. So anytime I run this code, I will always get Lovett until something else overrides this name. Okay? Even though if I reload my browser, you see that I reload my browser. Normally, in your normal code, everything will clear, but because this thing is saved in my local storage, I can still access it at any time, and it will still be Lovett. All right? If you go to another tab and you go to inspect elements, if you check the console, in your console, you can also access local storage. If you do get item, name, you see here is null. because we are inside repo, all right? This is outside repo. So this is not visible here because this is, what is it called? An environment being hosted by repo. So this local storage will only available in repo. But if we do the same thing here in our browser, since you'll be working on your computer, if you do the same thing here, set item, name, and we want to save it as love, just to show you that it's different. Now, if we call this get item again, you'll get love, all right? So let's close this tab and open another tab. And if we go to inspect element, your console is able to run JavaScript code, okay? That's why I'm using this to quickly show you. You see our local storage object has this. Do you see that? Name, Lovette. So anytime I can call get item and I put in name, it will always show that value. Doesn't matter if I close my browser or come back after many years. Okay, so if you want to see what is going on there, you can see here. If you go to under application, you will see the URL of your application. For this time is Chrome extension because we did it in the console. You can see the value here listed here. Okay, the one we saved in repo is in repo environment. Okay, so we are not able to access it from our browser info. Okay, so I just want you to know that that exists. So if you run your own, you will see the part of your application in this local storage. Just select it and you will see all the keys that you have saved in here. And you can either clear it using this. You can clear all, or you can even modify it from here. So if we change this to Lovette, for example, if we go back to our console and we call get item name, it's going to be the new name that we changed it to. You see that? Of course, you will not use the user device as your main database. We are using this one as a intermediary because we've not discussed anything database, okay? This is majorly used for to save user session, all right? So when your application authenticates a user, you use it to save the user token, which you use to make requests to your API at a subsequent request. That is what this local storage is majorly used for. So what you will save here is only user data, not your database. Okay, so something like if you log in a website, let me see, which one can I use to test? Let's say Facebook, for example. If I log in now in Facebook, if you check here, you see local storage. You see www.com Facebook. Look at all these things are the things that Facebook saved in my computer for just visiting their web page. Okay, so all these things are all data related to me and not someone else. This is my session ID here. All right, so all this data are all something that tracks my activity on the website. So at some point, they are going to do anything they need to persist on their web page, they are going to post it to themselves and save it in their own database. but this one are just for quick access, so that as I'm navigating through the pages, they don't need to be loading something from their database all the time. So all the data they need that is not changing, they can keep here for quick access. All right. So that is just one use case of local storage there. So how do you save an object into local storage? Remember when we visited Facebook, you saw that there are some data there with curly braces and square brackets. Those are the way to save objects as a string. And in JavaScript, for you to save an object as a string, you use JSON.stringify. JSON is an object that provides you a method, stringify, which helps you to compress an object into a string, okay? So in this case, you might want to save a list of objects. For example, you say, these are all your words that your user have saved in a list, and you have each word in an object which has keys. So which is the word name, let's say book, and maybe the description is book is for reading, something like that. And you can have other one. Remember, it's going to be just a list of these objects. So you can have another word to say wake. You put the meaning to rise up forever. Look. Then you put the meaning, whatever you like to put as the meaning of the word, to see. So this is what your list of words and meaning will look like. So for you to save this word into the local storage, you are going to use this JSON.stringify, and you're going to call local storage.setItem, and you're going to give it the key. So you can call it words or whatever you want, words or word store, if we decide to go with that name. Then you call your JSON.stringify and pass in the list of all the objects in there. So when you pass this and you save it, if we do get word store, we run this code, you see that this is the string that we saved. All right. And again, you can do the same in your local browser, and you will get that information here inside application, and look at your link, and you will get, you see this name is still there, not changed. So if we do the same here and we put in word store, you will get it as a string also. If let's see if we can copy this and run it in our console. Yep, and we want to run this set item. I'm doing this because this is how you will, when you run your own file in your browser, after editing it locally, I want to show you how it will look like in your browser, okay? So if you come to application, you will see word store has been added. This is the name, this is the word store that we just added. And you see here, this thing here, with all the brackets and parentheses, they are all string. This is string, it's not an object in this case. So when you call this thing back from get item and you pass in your word store, you see here is a string that comes out, not an object like this. So this is what we saved. We stringified it, meaning converting it to a string, and we saved it, and now we can retrieve it. This is string, okay? So now, for us to convert it back into an object, we can save this into a variable like this. Our A is this, okay? So we want to change it back to something of this nature. We can create another variable, and for us to convert it back, we are going to use also the JSON object again. This time we are going to use pass. Pass will pass our string and bring it back to an object like this, where we can read it with loop or index access, how you always use your object. So if we pass in the A, which is our string, if we do W now, you see that this is an object. Compare this to this one line here. You know that this is a string and this is an object. And this object has index and it has keys. So to access the index one, the first one, you see there, we can access it like our normal array. And we can also do word name to get the word name, which is book. All right. So let's do that in repo. Again, this is how we stringified it. This is how we get this. So if we comment this line of code and run this code again, you will still get your string, which is good. Now we want to retrieve it back. All right. So we make a variable word R, let's say R for retrieve. So you know the difference. So local storage.get item word store. If we console log this word R, let's comment this one, you see is still our string, okay? Now, if we pass this with our json.pass and we console log this, you see that it's not an object. So right now we can do 0 to get the first one, you see, and we can access the property .word name to get the property book, okay? So this is all you need to fulfill our word store application. All right. So this is your list of objects. This is how you save it as a string into the local storage using JSON stringify. Then you load it again and you pass it using json.pass to bring it back to this format again. You know, this one is a list of objects. You know, you can also save an ordinary object. Let's say const word equals to this. All right. You can also save it using stringify this way. You can save it this way also. So let's remove these ones. And if you call this, you can also save your word like this. And let's call this word. And if you run this code, it's saved. Now we can retrieve it again like this. First access forward, and you get your book back. But in this case, you cannot do, let's comment this, and let's say trans w equals to get word. Now, the difference is we can't do dot word name here. You see, it's undefined. But when we pass it, when we pass this JSON dot pass, if we pass the content, then we are able to do dot name and we can get book. So that's the work of this pass. Bringing our stringified object back to object states where you can access the properties. Correct? So now, when you save into your local storage, you also want to remove. Okay? So you can also remove. So you see here we have this book. If we log the whole W, you will see we have this object. What if we want to delete it? So you can do local storage dot remove item. Then you pass in the key that you want to remove. All right. So if we remove this word and we try to get word again, if we try to get word again, you will get undefined or null. See, because this one removes it. And you don't need to call this all the time. If you comment this again, you see that our word will always be undefined. And if we check word store, you will see that word store is still there. All right. If we check name, I believe we saved a name. You see that the name is still there, Lovett. If we call remove name, it will delete it and it will become null. All right. The same, if we do it for store, your store will become null also. So as in this point, we have nothing in the local storage.